All right, welcome back to the channel, man. Bad news for Vasily Lomachenko. Vasily Lomachenko versus Teofimo Lopez fight has been pushed back again. This time they're saying that they're pushing it back to October, but more than likely, man, it's going to get pushed back well into the year 2021, which is not a good look for an aging, slowing, now having one of the most inactive periods in his professional career in the Vasily Lomachenko. It's just the longer this fight gets pushed back, the more likely it is that Vasily Lomachenko is going to take that L. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. I'm starting to worry about this fight for Vasily Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez. It's supposed to be it's a unification fight for the lightweight division. It's a unification fight for the lightweight division. It's not an undisputed fight for the lightweight division. It is a unification fight for the unification fight for the lightweight division. You will have the WBA belt on the line, the WBO belt on the line, and the IBF belt on the line between Teofimo Lopez and Vasily Lomachenko. But the fight, because of COVID, keeps getting pushed back. And to be honest with you, my viewpoint of it is that most likely there are not going to be any major fights this year. There probably won't be any major fights until 2021. I do not believe that that Canelo Alvarez is going to fight anybody significant. I don't believe that the Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury fight is going to go off in 2021. I do not believe Errol Spence Jr. versus Danny Garcia or Manny Pacquiao versus Mikey Garcia or Terrence Crawford versus Ugas or any of those type of, well, maybe the Ugas one could have happened if Ugas wasn't getting the shot at the WBA title. But pretty much for this year, what we're going to get is if we get a world-class fighter that's going to fight, it's going to be in a fight that's similar to like a Shakur Stevenson, the last guy that he fought. Maybe you can get it to the level of a Shakur Stevenson versus a Miguel Berchelt type of fight happening this year. But anything north of that is going to be very, very tough to happen. And that includes Teofimo Lopez and Vasily Lomachenko. Now, the problem for Vasily Lomachenko, if this fight gets pushed into 2021, is that he is now going to be, as of February, in February of 2021, he will be 33 years old, and he would not have fought, I do believe, since July of 2019. So you would have missed, what is that, 16, 17, 8, he would have been out of the ring 18 months. Vasily Lomachenko has fought at least once every 6 months since he turned professional. At least once every 6 months or twice a year since he turned professional. That amount of a layoff for Vasily Lomachenko may very well bring him in to the ring against a guy like Teofimo Lopez, rusty. And that, my friend, is a really bad look for Vasily Lomachenko, because Teofimo Lopez, I think, and I've said this multiple times, that Teofimo Lopez, I favor Teofimo Lopez to win that fight for several reasons. And they're not all related to the skills of the fighters involved. I think Top Rank and Bob Arum are one of them. I guess I won't call him dirty. I'll just call him savvy. I think that's obviously one of the most savvy boxing organizations that there is. And they understand that Teofimo Lopez is worth more money to them than Vasily Lomachenko is. And I mean worth more money in the future. Like I said, Vasily Lomachenko will be most likely, or there's a chance. Now, I won't say most likely, but there's a chance, and I believe that Vasily Lomachenko will not be back in the ring until he is 33 years old. For a guy that small in that weight range, 33 years old is pushing up on ancient. And not only that, he's not just that age 33, but because he has had so many fights and he's been fighting consistently since the age of 7. I think he might have taken some breaks, from like competition between the time he was say 8 and 12 or something like that. But he's been consistently training, pushing his body from the time he was a very young child all the way till he's 33 years old. He has much more wear and tear on his body than a guy, say like, a 33-year-old Deontay Wilder who didn't pick up the sport till he was 19 years old. It's just, he has a lot of wear and tear on him. So you have, so that's why I would say Teofimo Lopez is the more valuable commodity for Top Rank, because Teofimo Lopez could use the 3-belt unification that Teofimo Lopez would have to then pitch him for fights against other fighters, because he's the guy that beat Vasily Lomachenko. He beat the guy that is the #1 pound for pound fighter in the world, according to Ring Magazine and ESPN. So they get to move an old guy out and move a young guy in to that same position. So and then if you look at the style that these guys fight, you'll see that Vasily Lomachenko, first of all, Vasily Lomachenko is much smaller than Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo Lopez, even though he's not the tallest guy in the world, he is a guy that is most likely going to wind up being like a shorter 147-pound fighter, because he has so much muscularity and so much size on him. So Vasily Lomachenko was going in there with an age disadvantage, going in there with the longest layoff of his career at an advanced age. He's cutting a lot more easily. And fighters have adjusted more to his fighting style since he came to lightweight than they were able to win, because Lomachenko doesn't have that many fights, right? So he could fool and trick people, and they may not know what was coming up with him in his first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th fight, right? But now that you're at 13, people have seen you 13, 14 times. They see how different people reacted and what type of success they had with you. Teofimo Lopez is going to be a young guy with one-punch knockout power. I do believe he's got one-punch knockout power in both hands, fighting a Vasily Lomachenko that he has been watching for his entire professional career, after Vasily Lomachenko has been dropped by Jorge Linares, taking the distance by Luke Campbell, taking the distance and having lost several rounds to Jose Pedraza. I mean, just the whole thing to me just seems like Vasily Lomachenko is, man, he's going to be really up against it for the first time in his career. And you also have to understand that even though Vasily Lomachenko is a great fighter, and the only issue I've ever had with Vasily Lomachenko is the rating of Vasily Lomachenko based on the things that he's done, right? With 13 fights, I don't care what you say, anybody with 13, 14 fights should never be considered one of the greatest fighters of all time. It's just ridiculous. You haven't had enough chances to show what you've done, right? There's just not the samples in order to make the judgment, right? It seems ridiculous to me. But that's not saying that the man can't fight. Clearly what you see in the ring is that the dude can fight, he can fight with the best of them. But so I've never had a problem with his skill set. I've always had a problem with the hype. But this scenario, dude, I think that, the longer this goes, the worse it's going to play out for Vasily Lomachenko, the better it's going to play out for Top Rank and Teofimo Lopez. But on a final note, I have to say this. The fact that people are touting this fight as a fight between Vasily Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez is a fight for undisputed it's just horse crap. Because the only guy that could become the only person that can become undisputed in that fight is Vasily Lomachenko. And since Vasily Lomachenko is the only person that can hold 4 titles when that fight closes, and Teofimo Lopez, if Teofimo Lopez wins, Teofimo Lopez will only have 3. That tells you that it's not a fight for undisputed because only one guy could win it. The WBC franchise belt is a designation. It's not a championship. It is just a way that the WBC carved out for fighters that they think are special, right? Who can bring them extra money, right? Special means money to me. Franchise means special. Special means money, right? Those are the only people that can get that designation, but it's not a designation that you can win in the ring, right? Only thing Teofimo Lopez would get for beating Vasily Lomachenko is the opportunity to fight Devin Haney. So if that's the case, how can that fight possibly be considered a fight for undisputed, right? Because Vasily Lomachenko is the only person that can be undisputed. It's just ridiculous, man. And it just, dude, the WBC, the sanctioning bodies are just terrible, man. And I think they need to like just disband them. Because obviously, man, after about 60 years, you guys are just corrupt at this point. Anyway, it is what it is. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.